You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode 57, Superman's Cleanup Campaign. A lot of alliteration there. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed. And 1,000 miles over there to my left, which is this direction for me, is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Hello.
So, I had some downtime today.
Okay.
At work, I work on a computer, but I'm not an IT kind of person, but my job just entails a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there is an element periodically that is computer processing that is downtime for me while it does that. And it can be 15, 20 minutes. It can be a couple hours to do what it needs to do. It just varies.
Yeah.
So today was one of the more extended times. So I went out on the internet and I went down a rabbit hole, as I am wont to do at times.
Yeah.
Today's rabbit hole was podcasts. I listen to comic book podcasts almost exclusively, probably 85, 90% of my time listening to podcasts is comic book.
Yeah.
But this was different. This was back in the day comic book podcasts that I was looking up.
Okay.
I started with Rocky Mountain Comic Book Noise. Do you remember that one?
It sounds familiar.
That was a very early iteration of Mr. Mike Myers and his podcast work. He had Geek Brunch out at the same time. He started Geek Brunch a handful of months before, but then brought out this Rocky Mountain Comic Book Noise, which was a play on Derek Coward's Comic Book Noise, just based in the Rocky Mountains, because that's where Mike lives then and now. So that led me to looking up a podcast called Teenage Wasteland. Good evening, Pearson. First time catching you live. Been a fan and watching them on YouTube replay. Cheers. This cold one's for you. Well, thank you very much for joining us live, and thank you for this wanting us for us.
Yeah, I used to work for a company called Pearson.
Oh, cool. So, Teenage Wasteland, the host was a gentleman named Alec Berry.
Okay.
Two things that caught me back in the day onto interest in the show was that, one, he was significantly younger than I was. He was 17, 18 years old.
Wow.
But the cool thing was that at the time, he was attending West Virginia's flagship university, which I just thought was too much coincidence to just let go by. I don't run into very many podcasts from West Virginia that are in my particular area of interest. And so when I find them, I will, even if I don't listen to them, I will mark them so that I know that they're out there, and I'll check in periodically. But that's what interested me in Alex, and it's ALEC, Alec. His show, plus the fact that it came out through the Comic Book Noise Network, which is Mr. Derek Coward. So, but I just, looking up information, I don't have to look up information on Mike. He's still podcasting. I know what he's up to and, where he is and everything. Alec Berry, I had just lost track of over the years and spent a little time trying to track down the person just to see what he was up to. And spent some time looking up older episodes of both of these shows and just listening to them just to see if I could remember, see how it felt. So it was just a multi-minute nostalgia trip as far as podcast listening was for me today. That's kind of cool.
Nice, cool. I'm I think I don't know if we talked about yet that I finally got caught up with Infamous America and Legends of the Old West, 2 podcasts by the same guy. That I had been binging. And now that I'm caught up, he puts out a new episode, like episode 2 of the new season. And I listen to it and I'm like, I want to listen to episode 3 now because I'm so used to binging him.
Yep.
But I found another one that I've been binging called American Scandal.
That's the one you tweeted about, right?
Recently? Yeah, just recently I tweeted about it. Yeah.
Today or maybe yesterday? Okay.
Yeah. It's I don't know that I will listen to all of it because it's up to like season 50. Yeah, and there's at least 4 to 5 episodes per season. I'm in season 4 right now. Basically what I'm doing is I'll listen to a season, I'll see what the next season's about. And if it's something that I think is going to interest me, then I'm going to listen to it. And so far, everyone has interested me. The one I just finished was about the Exxon Valdez oil spill.
Okay. So each season is based around a topic?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A scandal.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay.
Nice hat.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man. How about this? Let's see. How about that?
We're like those guys that go to the concert wearing the T-shirt of the band that we're there to see.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
Don't
why
be that guy.
That's why you bought it, is to be seen in it, and where better to be seen in it than at their venue. That's
There was a movie. I want to say it was in the 90s called. I don't know if it was just called PC. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was around the. Ooh, man, there's 5 people watching us right now.
Cool. You're switching from YouTube to StreamYard to must have worked. So
must have.
You'll have to remember that and jump through all those hoops every time. No, don't do that. I
can't remember what the movie was called, but it had it was set in college. It was a fraternity who was not PC, and David Spade played the bad guy in it, but Jon Favreau played a small part. And I don't remember who the main character was, who that actor was, but I remember him specifically telling Jon Favreau at one point, because his character was going to go to a local club to see a band. And he goes, "Oh yeah, what are you seeing?" And he told him the name of the band, and he was wearing the T-shirt of the band. He goes, "Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that wears the T-shirt of the band that he's going to go see. Don't be that guy." So I've never done that because of that freaking movie.
Wow. PCU.
PCU, yes. Well, who is the main character? What was the main?
Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy Pivens. That's right.
I may actually have seen that. College and Jeremy Piven sounds familiar. Now I don't know if I remember. I think I remember David Spade. I don't know if I remember Jon Favreau being in it.
Yeah, he had a really small part.
Okay, but I think I've seen this. Yeah.
What year was it?
96. No, 94.
Oh.
PCU 94.
One of
94.
A local band out of Lawrence, Kansas, that one of the 2 bands I think from Lawrence that ever got signed at the time that I was back, because I would have been playing in a band at that point in 94. They were called Stick, and they had a song on the soundtrack. Oh,
well, there we go. Small world kind of stuff.
Yeah. They also had a song on the Airheads soundtrack.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah. I think maybe appealing to similar demographics, those 2 movies.
Oh, yeah. I just watched Airheads recently. It was just as fun recently.
Okay.
There's Manny.
There's one.
He just does not. I had a team meeting today, conference call thing, telemeeting today that I was leading. And I spent like every 3 minutes moving him out of the way. It's like...
Yeah.
I don't know what his deal was.
That's all right. That's one of the cool things about working from home.
I had my weigh-in today. I'm officially 36 pounds lost so far.
All right. In how long?
I think it was February of 2021 when I started. So a little over a year.
Okay.
But for most of this year, I had at one point, because I dropped down to maybe 32 pounds was the most I had hit at one point. And then every time I'd go in, I was either even or I had gained a couple of pounds, and it was driving me up the freaking wall. And then last month I go in and I had dropped 7 pounds, but I still wasn't at that point yet where I was before I started going back up, but just hit that today.
Those days.
Yeah. I'm now below it. So
yeah, it can be anything. Water. If you'd weighed in 2 days later, you'd have been 5 pounds less. I mean, it's just so, I am familiar with Terry Moore, and she is very familiar with that weight loss up, down roller coastery thing as well. So it's,
Well, and that's, the doctor that I'm seeing, that's something that, I mean, anybody will tell you that, it's ups and downs, but I can understand how people get frustrated. Yeah. When you start out going down, and then you just spend some time going back up and eating, and just like, because there were moments over the last 3 or 4 months that I was like, you know what, this isn't worth it. I want to eat some cake.
That's right.
You know, I want to eat
it.
what I want to eat, and if I'm not losing weight, then I might as well have fun going out. You know,
I tried it and the shit ain't working. So yeah.
But seem to be back on track. So,
but yeah, that's why I ask how long, because numbers are cool, but it's like I lost it and kept it off.
Yeah,
you know, so regardless of what you're doing, you have kept off 25 to 30 pounds consistently, and so that's the true weight loss. That, you know, anything else is going to vary depending on in the morning, in the evening, it's like, wow, just.
And my what do they call it? The A1C, my blood sugar level.
Blood sugar.
Yeah, I've cut it in half since.
Oh, okay. That's very good.
So I dropped down to it's still considered high, but it's below a certain like diabetes level, basically. Finally.
Uh-oh. I lost you, dog. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay. Sorry, somebody was trying to call.
Oh, cool.
Never had that happen before.
Okay. All right. We ready to go?
Yeah, these are some fun stories we're going to talk about tonight for the next 3 episodes. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. I liked a couple of them. One of them was kind of deadly, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
All right, folks. Today we're looking at Superman's Cleanup Campaign, which is the third story to appear in Superman number 7. It was written for us by Jerry Siegel and arted for us by Wayne Boring. It's cover dated December 1940 with an on sale date, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, of September 10, 1940. So we're just about to round out the year 1940 here with our Superman coverage.
Do you think that Wayne Boring had a tough time in school?
Yes.
With a name like that? Yeah.
Boring, yes.
Probably. Yep.
Especially among his male peers. Maybe the females weren't so hard on him just because of his name, although they could have been as well. But I definitely know.
Some of them females may have told him, Wayne, not boring.
Could be, yeah. You know, maybe a little later in life, yeah. It's stages of male and female interaction, you know, as we go through all that. All right, folks, here's what happened in this issue. After a murderer is set free due to crooked prosecuting attorney Ralph Dale, Clark Kent recommends that the Daily Planet support Bert Runyan, an honest attorney, for office to stop the corruption. Gang boss Nat Burley pressures Runyan to drop out of the race using several illegal methods and assistance from crooked police officers. Superman helps Runyan avoid the tactics of his competitor, but when election day comes, a gang member stuffs the ballot box fixing the election. The Man of Steel exposes the crime, causes Dale and Burley to be arrested. Runyan is elected after a recount. So, another mob kind of story. I think two of the three of them tonight are mob-related stories.
Yeah.
So we are kind of coming back to that almost full time, as opposed to any kind of extraterrestrial, dimensional, super, whatever kind of villain. So that's to be expected, I guess. Kind of a little let downy. I won't necessarily say disappointing. I think maybe that's a little too harsh, but kind of. I'm ready for Superman to fight people worthy of Superman fighting them.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this is the 56th, roughly, definitely over 50 stories that we've covered, and yeah, I'm ready for some non normal people, bad guys for Superman to fight. So
yeah, no doubt.
But
Luthor's he's got to be coming back fairly soon.
Yeah, and he's not been back for like a measurable amount of stories now. So yeah.
Right.
The very, very first thing that struck me about this story is the sport jacket that very first Hood is wearing with the pistol. It
Yeah.
I just want to feel it to see if it is as textured as it looks. I mean, to me, it's like popping off the page between the color and the line work in it. It just looks so different from what anybody else is wearing. And
Now we're talking about the guy that does the actual shooting.
yes, and then later on in the story, he's the dude that's talking to the cop lower on the page. It's the lawyer, and then he's talking to the woman on the stand. It's not. I don't think it's the same dude, but they're certainly wearing the same jacket. They went to the same tailor.
Looks like it's made out of steel wool.
Something. It just has so much texture. Now, I will say that the police officer that he's talking to on the stand has a whole lot of texture on his jacket too.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come up really again. This jacket comes up again later on in the story, actually several times. So I don't know what is different about, maybe it's the color, because that is kind of a unique color from what we've seen before.
Yeah.
It's a brownish, made darker by the amount of line work that the color is over, and it's a lightly saturated brown, but not light unto like a tan or a leather color. It's definitely, to my eye anyways, a brown. And if you look away, or if I look away and look back at it, it almost changes to like a, I don't know, it has, to me, it almost has like a purplish hue to it a little bit.
Yeah,
kind
I can see that.
Depending on just how your eye is picking up the colors. But yeah, so I noticed that right off the bat. That was cool.
Looking at that page with when we first see the guy shooting the other dude, the last panel on the page, what is frickin' Lois wearing on her head?
You would have to ask Dan Aykroyd, because I believe she got it from the movie that he and what's-her-face were in, based off the characters from Saturday Night Live.
Coneheads?
Yeah.
It almost looks like Green Arrow's hat, like she's cosplaying Green Arrow.
Right, yeah. What? Yeah, I can't think of what that style hat is called, but yeah, it's some kind of medieval archer's kind of hat you always see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I have one from my first trip to a Renaissance fair. It's in the bedroom on my counter.
The first thing that I noticed about this story is that, and I think we talked about it over the last few stories, the level of art is really just kicking up a notch. Mm-hmm. I mean, Wayne Boring he's really knocking it out of the park here. There's a number of panels that you can look at and go, all right, well, that's very golden age. But at the same time, there's some of these characters just have, he's got great expressions on their faces. Mm-hmm. Frickin' Paul Runyan, was that name Paul? Bert Runyan.
Bert, yeah.
His suit, his pinstripe suit. I mean, can you imagine drawing those frickin' lines in there?
That would.
And then the big the bad guy, the big bald kingpin looking dude. I mean, they all just look great.
Burke, I think. Yeah, it definitely is a couple steps up from the newspaper art that we saw at the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
Definitely having the time, I would imagine, to spend more time on it rather than, that's kind of what we supposed about the newspaper drawing, is that they had to pop those out so quickly that it was just maybe, I think, just a level or two above sketch, just to be able to get it down and get it out and in time and everything like that.
Yeah. We also have another Superman flying, not flying moment. Mm-hmm. That he's obviously flying, but he's not supposed to.
He can't fly, so he's not flying.
It's the one where he literally swoops down and picks up the car.
Yes.
The motion lines are curved. He has flown down and arched before he hit the ground. He didn't bounce off the ground and pick up the car. He's definitely flying there.
Because what did he do? Yeah, he flew down and grabbed the. Well, I don't know. Well, see, okay,
he was on top of a building watching,
right,
and then he jumped down as they got in the car, and then picked the car up and jumped back up in the air.
But he would have to touch the ground if he's going to pick the car up. But the way it's drawn, the lines you would suppose are him.
Yeah.
And
He flew under the car and picked it up as he was flying. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't touch the ground. It doesn't stop at the ground or anything like that.
Yep.
Yeah. More and more, he's just being drawn to where he's flying. I mean, there's just.
Yeah. They just don't care. I think they're just like, I know he's not supposed to fly, but it's just easier to do this.
Well, how about, what is it? It's on the next page, the middle row, where he's grabbed the dudes and he is moving parallel to the train.
Yeah.
He's not on the ground. Mm-hmm. He's in the air. He couldn't have jumped. He's got to be flying at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's even more funny is because he's basically torturing these two guys because he snatched them up and he's like, hey, look, there's a train. Let's race it.
Yeah.
And then he's running alongside the train, holding both guys by the collars of their jackets. And yet, despite how fast they're moving, these guys, while they're kind of freaked out, they don't seem to be that freaked out because they're actually they have running commentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he wasn't fooling. He is racing it.
they're having a conversation, Yeah, so they're not that messed up by it,
right? That kind of stuff cracks me up.
But yeah, and to that end, he's racing the train because he gets around in front of it and then stands there with the dudes while the train is barreling down on him. Yep. We'll all be killed.
Can we beat it to the crossing?
Yee!
Yeah. Yee! Is the other guy screaming.
Screaming, yeah.
And then I guess he just leaves them on top of the train.
On top of the train, yeah. Which I guess, because of how fast the train is going, they can't get down. So they'll be there until it's the next stop, wherever that is. But those are a couple henchmen that the big boss hired to get rid of Runyan. Yeah, the good candidate, the fair candidate, and he's going to use a bomb. The bad guy here that definitely looks like a hand grenade to me. It doesn't look like much.
But it's definitely a hand grenade. But he made it.
But I was going to say he can manufacture hand grenades. That's pretty handy in 1940. I mean, he could be employed elsewhere and probably make a fine living doing that. So he's stopped the first assassination attempt here by grabbing the two thugs that were supposed to do it. Superman then goes and talks to the crime boss and tells him that his two stooges there have been waylaid and they're not going to be able to do what Superman knows they were hired to do because he was listening in the whole time with this super hearing. So he knows exactly what the plan was. After talking to the crime boss, he then stakes out the place and watches as several of the other members of this evil circle come in. The dirty prosecuting attorney, and he comes with a dirty cop that Superman had no idea about, but in order to do what the prosecuting attorney has done, he had to have somebody in law enforcement on his side. And so now Superman sees you are fighting a losing battle. Now Superman sees who the policeman is that's been working with the prosecuting attorney as well. So now it's the crime boss and the prosecuting attorney who he has bought off, and the police officer who one or both of the other guys have bought off, all together now in the same room having a conversation about what to do. So now Superman knows pretty much from top to bottom in the crime ring, who's involved, and he's able to listen in on their next plan to try to put down the good candidate in running for the prosecuting attorney's job, which is being held by the dirty prosecuting attorney.
Yeah, they're trying to frame him by running somebody over in his car and then blaming it on him.
Yeah, having him up on drunk driving charges and having killed somebody. So that's where the police officer comes in handy, because the crime boss and the prosecuting attorney by themselves couldn't pull something like that off. He has to be arrested. There, evidence and all this kind of stuff. So that's where the dirty cop comes in handy. While Superman is listening, he has jumped into a window in an office/apartment next door to where this meeting is being held by all the ne'er-do-well. Well, the owner or the occupant of that property comes in and sees Superman listening and pulls a cane sword on him he's got a sword in his cane, and it's that's how he's going to fend off this interloper that is in his office or apartment, whatever it is. And I thought that was funny. I didn't really. I always have seen those things since I was little, but I always thought they were kind of gags. I didn't know they were necessarily serious, but apparently they were serious enough that in 1940 somebody put it in a Superman comic. So yeah, I always thought kind of like, growing up, the switchblade comb I always thought was kind of cool. That cane sword thing I always thought was kind of cool. If I ever need a cane, I'm going to have one with it. So.
Every year when the carnival would come to town, I'd go and get one of them switchblade combs.
Yep. They were cool when you were a kid. They were cool. Now as an adult, I'm like, really? But I had my share of them, multiple. So the dude whose property Superman broke into and Superman tumble out a window because the dude tries to tackle him right in front of a window and they fall out a window.
Right, so that was so weird.
Superman has to save him from being smushed on a bus. And then we see, and this is what is this? It's about there's it's over a page, a little over a page of all of this interaction between Superman being next door and the dude whose place he's borrowing. They tumble out the window, Superman saves him, and then jumps back up and puts him at his desk unconscious because all the falling and rescuing and jumping is too much for the dude, and he passes out. So Superman just leaves him there at his desk.
I tell you what, it's funny when you're reading a story like this about a guy who's from an alien who has superpowers, and then there are certain things that happen that you're just like, no, that I can buy everything else, but this would never happen. And it's him, the two of them falling out that window. I mean, Superman must have been standing very precariously because a normal human being is not going to knock Superman off of his feet, first of all.
No.
Much less have them both tumble out a window.
And you don't really see them struggling in that way right before it happens. Basically, the dude tries to skewer Superman, and standing there, he grabs the sword and breaks it. And that's it. I mean, that's all we see. Yeah. The dude is like, oh, you broke my sword. And then the next panel is both of them tumbling out the window.
Yeah, now the text says Superman's attacker leaps at him, and in the struggle, both topple out the window. So between those panels, they're wrestling around, and then they just fall out the window.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the moment in the book where I went, no, I don't care that he's not he's not who he is now. He's still freaking Superman back then, and a regular dude is not going to wrestle him out the window.
Yep, you're asking me to suspend disbelief, and I can do that, but not here.
up to a certain point. Yeah,
yeah. It's like Terry and I often talk about how people will comment about another person's creativity in a movie, TV show, comic book. And we always say, oh, you're pretending wrong. And so that's what is happening there. They're pretending that the dude could take Superman off his feet. Right. And it's like, no, you're pretending wrong. That just wouldn't happen. What's up, Doug?
Doug's in the house. Hi, Doug.
Doug, let me introduce you to Pearson, who is a longtime listener, first-time caller, first-time poster. Yeah. And Terry's in the house as well. So there you go. Pearson, Terry, Doug, Terry, Pearson, Terry, Pearson, Doug. There. Intros. And this is Steeven in the blue hat and me in the black hat.
That means you're the bad guy.
Yes, I'm the black hat. Yes. But you're not the good guy because you're not wearing a white hat. So
I lean more evil.
Oh, okay. You're just dude. It's okay.
Yeah.
Lean more. Yeah.
Dragonlance. You had the white robe wizards are good.
Right.
The black robe wizards were bad, and then the red robes were neutral.
I went to a very similar spot in thinking of good, evil, neutral, chaotic. Good, chaotic, neutral, chaotic.
Yeah.
That's where my mind went. So a very similar place. You just went with colors.
Yeah.
I went with the D&D description of the behaviors.
So we're getting close to my favorite moment in this story.
Okay.
When Lois and Clark go to vote, and there's a couple of thugs, stopping people from voting for the wrong person.
Waiting for them. Yeah,
Yeah. They're like, who you going to vote for? And Clark gives him attitude.
Yeah.
Runyan, if it's any business of yours. And then they take the guy tries to smack him, give him a fresh one.
open hand.
Yeah. Clark ducks and fakes like he fell over, but then he knocks both the guys' heads together at the same time. But the best part about that, though, because Lois is super supportive in this story. Everything she has to say in regard to Clark or about Clark in this story is all super supportive. Even in this scene, she's not like, "Oh, you coward," like she normally does. The first thing she says is, "Hit him, Clark, hit him." And then when he accidentally knocks their heads together, she's like, "Nice going, Clark." So I really enjoy this supportive Lois Lane, but it's very weird compared to how she has been.
Because here in just another story or two, I think she reverts back to type as far as giving him grief. Although I will say, all three of these stories, not as much grief as she has given him in stories in the past. So
not at all.
I wonder if there's some kind of mandate or Steeven?
Yeah, Terry. I'm assuming that's what she's talking about. Terry's pointing out in the chat that I didn't officially introduce the cat that's been all over the
because
camera.
Everyone else got introduced. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Manny, but he's gone now.
Okay. That's the one that's been jumping up, Manny?
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go, Terry. It was Manny. I don't know if you...
It's actually the initials ME, which stand for man-eater, which is the name that my daughter gave him because he is a big fraidy cat. So she gave him the ironic name of man-eater.
Yes. Okay.
We just call him Manny.
Okay. Manny, short for man-eater. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that voting scene is near the end of the story. They're there to vote, and then we find out, well, it didn't go the way it was supposed to. The bad prosecuting attorney won because of the one precinct, the 43rd ward, and the person who was counting the ballots there was bought off by the big bad. And Kent goes to investigate, Superman goes to investigate and grabs him by his heels and swings him around until he confesses as to what he did, which is, that's as good a method of torture as any that I've heard. It's non-invasive.
That would freak me out.
Yeah, and there's not going to be any lingering damage and probably no signs that Superman did that to him. It didn't leave any marks on him or anything like that. So, effective torture. You can't tell. That's effective. So then he takes the dude, and dude, I think, has a name. Morgan. Morgan is the dude's name that he bought off. So Superman grabs up Morgan after getting him to confess and takes him to the, I presume, radio station, probably. Where
that's what I'm thinking.
Where where the prosecuting attorney is about to give his acceptance speech and his thank yous and all that with the big boss here, who now I know what it is. He reminds me of the Kingpin. Yeah, I kept something about him. I'm like, who is that? Yeah, he reminds me of Kingpin, who's a character in Marvel Comics that Spider-Man and then the Daredevil run up against.
Yeah, that certainly did not exist at this time.
No.
Would not exist for another 20 years.
Neither did Peter Peeker, who is a news correspondent later on. To that, I was like, what? Okay, so I'm sorry.
We'll get to that.
Spoilers, guys. Well, we'll get to that one. So Superman has Morgan here, and Morgan confesses over the air, and then the prosecuting attorney throws the big bad guy under the bus, and the big bad guy. So they all end up getting arrested on the air, and then the good prosecuting attorney and Clark Kent have the final scene here where they're like, oh, well, it's a good thing for Superman. And Clark's like, well, it's not just Superman. It's, so they're that typical good guy kind of ending to it. So,
Yep. Where if it was a TV show from the 70s, the last line would be one of them cracking a joke, and then they'd both go, ha, 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 and then it would freeze
with them.
The credits would roll by.
Yep, there you go.
Just like how they used to end. Do you remember the Police Squad?
Mm-hmm.
They made the Naked Gun movies out of it. I think every one of those episodes ended that way, except for they didn't freeze the shot. The guys would freeze themselves, and then like somebody would walk on set and then they'd have to freeze, or
Yep.
yeah. Or I think there was one with a monkey in the room with them, and it was throwing bananas and stuff.
Yep. A lot of the actiony shows from the 70s and 80s would end with some kind of moving scene at the end that froze, a car or somebody walking away, or that was the standard. Yeah, the car jumping for the millionth time that episode. So
I have to. I got to say this real quick,
okay?
Because it popped into my head, and that's the way my brain works. Hey, Billy D.
Billy D, what's up?
When when we were younger and the Dukes of Hazzard was on TV, I was over at we had like a family friend that our family would go hang out with them, or their family would come, just the parents, the kids, everything. We went on vacation together one year, but we were all over at their house one evening, and me and all the other kids were sitting around watching the Dukes of Hazzard, and my dad comes walking through the room. And for some reason, it just pissed him off because he sees what we're watching. He's like heading outside, and he stops. And he turns back around. And he goes, "I hope you don't think that you can drive around like that when you start to drive." And then just walks out of the house. And I was like,
"Wow,
no,
no."
And looking back at it, it's like, I wonder what had happened with the adults moments before that just pissed him off.
What was the conversation or that had him in a mood, and he's like, I need to say something now before it's too late. All right. Anything else about this story? Go ahead.
It was okay. It was, on the surface, it sounds like it would be kind of boring because it's just Superman going up against, again, the gangsters who are trying to rig an election. They have the prosecuting attorney in their back pocket, and which these gangsters aren't shooting high enough. You're supposed to have a judge in your back pocket.
There you go.
Prosecuting attorney can only do so much for you. It's the judge that you want, but that's all right. But because of little moments like Superman swinging the guy around by his ankles, and the guy trying to slap Clark, and Clark because of all that, and then of course them throwing the grenade at him as he's leaping through the air with the car, that was fun.
Right.
Moments like that made it fun. The story itself was very mediocre.
Right. Yeah. There were these little moments throughout that. Yeah. I agree. I don't know that 6 months from now I'll particularly remember this story. But while I was reading it and immediately after, it's like, that was entertaining enough for the time that I put into it. And it was. I can't get over the amount of texture that is coming up on these coats in this particular episode. It just, I don't know what they did that's different, but it's just kind of wigging me out, man, when I see it.
Yeah. Wayne putting in the overtime.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but that's I don't have anything else to say about this one.
I don't think I do either. So, with all of that being said, guys and gals, or I'll just say folks, because it's rather gender neutral, I think.
Folks.
Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Ed, that's Steven, and this was the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye. You've been listening to the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show at gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter under the handle @SoupsSuperShow. That's @SUPS Super Show. And continue the conversation at the Super Show Forum at forums.justanotherfanboy.com. We also encourage you to rate the show wherever available and share this podcast with a friend. All links will be in the show notes.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
Ooh, doggy. Friday night. I like the nightlife. I like the boogie. You ready to do this? I'm recording.
Yep, I'm ready, and my Audacity is recording as well.
By the way, you notice that once we do all 3 stories tonight, we're done with volume 2.
Yes.
It's crazy. All right. Whenever you're ready.